Now that we have a good sense of the cabinet, we want to get some insight into how things might be different over the next 4 years. For clues, we take a closer look at President Obama's speech. I spoke about it with Kyle Kondik, who analyzes American politics at the University of Virginia Center for Politics. He is also a contributor to the center's new book on the 2012 election titled Barack Obama and the New America. I asked him what we learned today.
It was a striking lack of foreign policy talk, I think, in general in this speech today. And he doesn't, maybe he has been kind of hardened to the world as it is, as opposed to maybe the world that he would like it to be. Not just in maybe dealing with countries abroad, but also here at home. There wasn't really the sort of conciliatory tone with his own political opponents here, where there was that 4 years ago. And I think that it was kind of more of a statement of principles as to what he wanted out of government. And then there was a little bit of foreign policy in it, but not a lot.
You mentioned not a lot. The one that caught my ear, we will support democracy from Asia to Africa, from the Americas to the Middle East. That was just about it. I mean,
Right.
He didn't really say much more than that. What do we take away from that if you're watching from afar?
Well, look, I mean, we just had a presidential campaign in 2012 that was shockingly devoid of foreign policy content. The candidates were running on the economy. Even during the foreign policy debate, there wasn't much talk of foreign policy. A lot of the candidates tried to move it back to the economy. So Americans right now are very interested in what's going on in our own neck of the woods, in the economy, and that's, I think, was reflected in the inaugural address today, in that it was a speech about what's going on here in America, and not necessarily what's going on abroad. And I think that's what the American people are looking for, rightly or wrongly.
4 years ago, there was all this hope, change. It just seemed like there was so much promise. 4 years later, the audience not nearly as big as 4 years ago, and perhaps the expectations not as big as well. What about the president himself? Does this seem like he's going to be much more forceful? He doesn't have to run for re-election. Is he really going to try and drive home his point? How do you see him as a changed president in his second term?
Well, I think he's sort of wised up to how things are going in Washington, and that is that not everybody's going to be behind him in the things that he seeks, particularly on kind of thorny public policy issues like immigration, which he addressed today in the speech, and especially climate change, which he brought up and was forceful about. But a lot of Republicans don't even believe that that's a problem, or that people have any we have any effect on that. And I think he's trying to appeal to the American people to say, this is important to me, it should be important to you too, and you should tell your legislator that that's important, that that's an important topic. But he's not he can't just, bend the Republicans to his will, but he also needs to get out there and talk about the things that he believes in, and that's what he did today, I think.
What about his second term? What are we likely to see?
Well, I think it's hard to see a lot of big substantive action on the things that he wants to accomplish, including climate change, and also on his recently proposed package of gun control measures, because he has a hostile House, controlled by the Republicans, and the Republicans have very different ideas about how to tackle these problems, or to not even tackle them at all. And so, anything that happens substantively, he's going to have to get through the House, and I don't know if the House is going to want to play ball on some of these things. And so, the president came out there and talked about what he wants to do and what his beliefs are, but those ideas and beliefs are very different than what the Republicans in the House are willing to give him.
Thanks so much for coming in and offering your insights.
No problem. Thank you.